works here. And Lyon is usually at the front desk, sometimes at the bar. But Lyon is a very accomplished actor, writer, and now storyteller. Here we go. He's a filmmaker. He's also a singer-songwriter. Lyon teaches workshops on creative process and story writing here at the Story Parlor. Lyon is working on, this is so impressive. Lyon is working with the Autism Society of North Carolina, providing direct care and employment support for adult men with autism. And he's currently working on a novel and a book on creative process for story. Having told you all of that, this is Lyon's first appearance on stage in this type of storytelling format. Lyon is a rookie. Lyon Bergh, come on up.
All right. Have fun.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Chuck. Mm-hmm. Hello.
Oh.
All the best stories start with once upon a time. So once upon a time, and I am in a holy place. Bright, brilliant, white light fills the stage. At center mast is a fir tree twice the size of any living room. Its giant, fully adorned arms holding the scene. Antoinette Sands owns the moment. She's a natural platinum blonde with porcelain doll skin and features, and she's painted into a lithe obsidian dress that sparkles like the brisk December evening that's overhead of the small stone century-old chapel on a hill. She holds a microphone. Just beneath the opening of her slight mouth, and in the background are musicians that give her the same honor as the wise men give to the God in the manger. And a voice cracks into my ear. Camera 2. Slow zoom in. My thumb delicately obeys. In a very practiced moment in movement that is slight and delicate, like a snowflake settling into the drift. And I look up to the monitor, and it is slowly moving inward. Gently, gracefully. Holy night, the stars are brightly shining. 'Twas the night. See that slow zoom in? It brings intimacy. It begs you to lean in, to listen to the river of her voice, to the roundness of the notes, to the quiver of her lips, and that beautiful old lyrics written long, long ago. This shining chapel on a hill is destiny itself. If only the whole world could come into this place and into this moment, they would fall on their knees and hear angels' voices. My vantage is on a pedestal. I'm about halfway up the wall on the south side of the wall. Above me is a stained glass window, dark because it's night, and beneath me is a sea, an ocean of heads. And we're all facing, giving the gift of reverent attention to this altar of beauty and song and perfect light. The pedestal protrudes from the wall, and beneath me and beneath this ocean are men and women, only a few, in the dark, working to create the magic of television. In this dark room, they are also in a holy place. Here, the director and her various operators, they shepherd the wild magic of a live performance into something that can be held, something that can be seen, something that can be shared again and again and again. It's like a modern Ark of the Covenant, able to hold this one holy moment. This moment that we called Philadelphia's Church of Our Savior Christmas Spectacular. We'd been rehearsing it and planning for it since August, and it was spectacular. Just like Christmas was there all the time, and this year was no exception. It was exactly the way it always went. In fact, I think in my memory, it was the best it ever was. We went from house to house. If somebody had a family, they threw on a spread and their door was just open. And those who were like me, who still just lived at home or were living in a group of other people while renting a room, we would go from house to house and we would eat. And we would drink. And we would hug people and we would eat. And eat. And then we would, fat and fatigued, fall onto somebody's couch watching It's a Wonderful Life. Say, every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. And this could last in various forms for days. Every house in this parade was a kind of sanctuary. But the holiest place of all, the holiest of holies, for me anyway, it was the screened-in porch of the house that I grew up in. Now, my parents, they didn't belong to this church, and so they weren't on the parade map, but they were kind enough to allow me to bring in anybody that I invited. And so sometime after the spectacular and during the feasting or in this moment, a band of us, a small group of us, would eventually end up in this screened-in box that faced the childhood woods that I grew up in. And there's nothing perfect to point to here. There's no moment. There's nothing that was said that is, oh, that's precisely the thing that made this perfect. It was just the happening of it. Because the only light that's there is coming in through a drape that's not closed right, or a neighbor's far off yard light filtered in through the trees. And we're each bundled under bundles, and under this table is a space heater that's just working its guts out. And on top of the table is whiskey, and there's wine, and there's beers, and stuffed into every one of our mouths is a fat black cigar that's just drooling smoke like incense from a censer. And we are men, and we are a brotherhood, and we are safe. Not only safe from a world that's ravaged with sin, but we are safe also from the subtle judgments of others in our community that through hugs and smiles still always somehow found a way to remind us that we were not enough. I feel, as I sit here, bundled against the cold, mid-Atlantic cold, icy cold, into your bones cold, that I finally belong to a group of men. George is beside me, and that guy, his laugh, so smart and gregarious that even though he's only like 5'3", feels so big, fills the room. And Jim's there, and Jim's the guy that walked through a time portal from a time of beaver trappers. Like beaver trappers that incessantly quote Monty Python. Bring out your dad! Bring out your dad! And there's others there too, like Nate. Nate was on leave from the Navy, and he smuggled from the Azores in a nuclear submarine the Cuban cigars and port wine we were currently drinking. And there are people whose names are fading for me. David, I think. But his face, their faces are still so present with me. All of us are just like Peter Pan's lost boys. And I learned in seminary a word that comes from church. It's like the origin of church. And through translations and mistranslations and etymology and smart things. Apparently, it comes from the German word Gemeinde. Gemeinde means congregation or a gathering of people. As in, God's Liebe in the Gemeinde ist gut. Where God's love in the church is very strong. Where God's love in the gathering of people is very strong. In this moment, I think what makes this night special is that it's male bonding. What I will come to understand is that it's more about the lost boys that makes us a brotherhood. And that was the last holy night. That night divine. Within a little more than half a year or so, there was a night, and then in this night there were accusations, and I don't need to go into what those accusations are because it doesn't matter, because those accusations were just the first ones to break through. And what followed after that was a revelation, an understanding that this church that I belonged to was actually just an institution of organized crime and had been since the 70s. This house of God, just a godless grift. And shortly before all of this happened, somewhere in that space between that great spectacular evening and that revelation, they tore up the patio. They said it was because they were going to build a new, big, magnificent sanctuary, quadruple our capacity. Oh, the opulence. Oh, the glory. But somehow all the money that we raised for it disappeared. And all the materials that we bought for it they weren't enough. Oh, we need to go bigger. We need to raise more. So the project was on hold until more money and more sanctuary could be raised. And in the meantime, the patio was a macerated pile of rubble and rebar. And I helped to build that patio. Me and my cohort at the seminary, at the Bible school, we were taken out of class to build that patio. We paid our tuition, And then we learned about the truth of God through backbreaking labor. And I was working full-time in a restaurant at the time, and also George had roped me into this job where we cleaned parking lots after 12 a.m. So sleep was a distant memory. And during that time, somewhere in there, I find myself standing over a hole that I've dug for some electrical wire, and I fall into a fugue. And I am just staring at a rut of cold clay. The air has a frost, and that frost tastes of leaves and iron. And David Durham, who was 50, but had perfect hair, a dimpled chin, and still looked like a high school running back somehow, comes strutting out of the administration building, and I know that he's coming to hold me to account. He's coming to drop some perfectly placed proverb like, "Consider the ant, thou sluggard," something that is intended, actual quotes in Proverbs. The intent is to remind me that my salvation is through the blood of Christ and my sweat, and that right now I am not sweating enough to make up for all of my sins. And I try to will myself back to consciousness. And I try to find the nerves that connect to my hand, that'll make the shovel lift to dig. I know he wants to crack the whip and guide my spirit into holiness. But when he comes and stands beside me, he says nothing and just stares at me through cyan eyes. And I think that he can see what I'm still discovering, which is that I've already found the holiness. I stare into the hole. I can't even move my neck to look at the man who's looking at me. And I exist, and the hole exists. And I stand without feeling anything, just existing. And the well of my torso is for the first time ever finally feeling something that I think is freedom. Because there's this pounding of constant ambition, this pounding of constant need for self-determination, this racket of righteousness, and I'm letting go of the resistance. And it's like a falling. As it all falls into this clay hole. I am in a holy place. And David sends me home. Tells me to rest. I'm damn proud of that patio. I'm really proud of being able to share. I was so proud to share it with the community on summer Sundays. I was so proud to walk on it every morning. I was so proud to watch the setting sun blend into its colors. Seasons pass. It's a year later, and we're sometime in 2024 in the springtime, and I'm standing on what remains of that patio. And their ambition to build a better sanctuary, they had destroyed a holy place. I had joined the church in search of a Bible school, but it took me several years to finally sign up. And when I did, it was 2001, and the day that classes started was September 11th. The day that the church blew up was August 11th, 2004. We would go on to just refer to that as 8/11. The conspirators fled. They never prosecuted. And the remainder of us, the Gemeinde of lost souls, we stuck around for another year trying to find the love again. We stopped wearing ties, showed up to service in jeans and hoodies to sing songs of praise and tones of grief. And Antoinette was gone, television's gone. I don't really know what happened to that videotape. Sure, somebody has it. I found a case of the Christmas CDs at the Goodwill. So there was 8/11, and then there was the fall, and then there was the winter, and then it's spring again. And I'm standing again, once more again, on the wreckage of that patio. But in the passing of seasons, it now has become more. There's something different. It's got grass. It's got reeds. It's begun to sink into the mud. And I hear the baying of crickets and the flitting of papery wings. And I step towards what was once the heart of the patio. And there in a pool, sunk into the mud, framed by broken concrete, is this little pond. And out of it comes the chorus of frogs. What the devil meant for evil, God means for good. Yes. It's what comes to my mind. And from the grave of thievery and betrayal, a sanctuary teeming with life has risen. I am in a holy place. I left the church that day. It liquidated 3 months later, and turned into a fund for the many, many, many victims. And that I cannot explain to you, describe to you. There's not really words for the depth of despair that followed for me. The erasure of everything, including just any semblance left of what God is. It was just a void. And it was a cold, dark summer. And then that fall, out of a desperate need to do something, I ran away, I fled, I ran to my sister's spare bedroom in Colorado, possibly without her permission. And I just needed to get away from everything that I knew. And there was no one I knew there. There was no brotherhood. There was nothing. I mean, my sister and I weren't really close at the time because the church had put wedges between me and everybody in my life. It was a lonely place. It was a deep, deep emptiness. And it was there that I found my true self. It was there that I found my true faith. It was there that I found my true purpose. Not in sweat, not in work, not in anyone's blood, but in the whole that was created by the failure of all of those things. The true holy place is not magnificent or bright or full of song. It's the emptiness waiting to be filled. The unwhole place. A hole where I have fallen to my knees and can at last hear the angels singing. A night divine. I'm Lyon Bergh. Thank you.
Good job.